we've got a couple people in here now. I'll just probably get started. So, based on my DMs and like my messages I've been receiving, a lot of people are interested in Bitcoin. Likely because of this big cascade that occurred on Friday. So first things first, we'll cover that. People want to pretend that it was unforeseen. Well, I didn't catch a short. I was actually early on my shorts, unfortunately. I was risk off, of course. We swing failed the highs. We had this curvature into the upside. We showed a bit of convexity, wicks into the upside, demand for sells. Pretty obvious that we should not be taking longs here, that we should be looking to alleviate risk rather than to add it. Especially on this candle that occurred on Wednesday when we attempted again and showed the failure and began distributing. So while I didn't catch this short to the downside, I was risk off. I didn't have large exposure to the altcoins, so I was actually very pleased with myself in that sense. Unfortunate that I did not get to catch the short, but on the perps, on our leverage contracts, you'll see the 104k target that I had been banging on about for like weeks now was tapped to like practically perfection. I think we came down to 102, 101, 500 on Blowfin at least. So the 104k target that I was looking for did come through on the perps, which I was also really happy about. It's like 20,000 pips top to bottom, 20,000 pips of risk that I did not have to, or draw down that I did not have to sit through. So I was super happy with that. But I'm sure people are more interested in what we might see next on Bitcoin. So when it comes to these types of moves, I don't like to anticipate these big V recoveries that I've seen people talk about. We've just dropped to the downside and we're instantly going to recover just as hard. That's not the way I view the markets. That's not the way what I'm anticipating. What I am instead expecting is some type of like range bound behavior, and the range that I'll be willing to play right now is going to be this one here. Let's say it's going to cap off at like 119k with the lows being down at like 109k. Okay, it's a 10,000 pip range, large range, so there's definitely money that can be made in there. But this range here, between the 119, 120k and the 109, 108k zone, is going to be like the next swing zone for me to be playing. In terms of like triggers, how we might actually execute on this, what I'm going to want to see, I'm actually going to bring this down to the 6 hour. What you might want to see in order to play this range is something along the lines of like a sweep below these weekend lows, we get back above them, hold it, and then we can push up to the upside. Alternatively, we have these highs here that we formed on Sunday and Monday. If we're going to push above them up into the 119k region, show some type of distribution, then we can look to take the sell-off. Obviously in the intermediary and in the meantime, because these are the extremities of the range, there will be other trades to take. But I think a sweep of these weekend lows or a sweep of these Monday highs is what's going to make sense for your like immediate term trading. And if you're looking for the swing trades, I think the swings between 119 and 109 is what makes the most sense here on Bitcoin. You shouldn't be just levering up and taking ridiculous amounts of risk when there's very limited confirmations for the time being. I think it's much more sensible for you to kind of take it one step at a time. That's how I'm taking it. I did get to add little bits of risk on again on the altcoins, but I am mostly sidelined. I say mostly, like I have a lot of sideline capital that I will redeploy in the event that we get like a sweep of these lows and a reclaim or another retest all the way down into the 103, 104k extremities. Alternatively, I could be wrong and we have this full reclaim of like the 117k region, then we're going to push to the upside and potentially break the all-time highs. If that occurs, then I'll just buy on the momentum. For the time being, we're in this like real chop zone, a zone of unknown, let's say. So I'm not going to just be throwing money at the market and potentially giving back the losses that I prevented, you know. So on BTC for the time being, I think there are definitely moves to make. There's definitely a volatile market, but you should not be levering up. You should not be throwing your whole portfolio or your whole wage slip at trying to catch the recovery. There's going to be tells, there's going to be signs, there's going to be either buying on the momentum, either another sweep of these lows. That's what I'd be waiting for. That's what I am waiting for myself. So it's gonna just conclude, I would like to see a sweep of this 109k lows, reclaim, demonstrate that we're going to hold this area. We can push up into Monday's high, or potentially into this 119k. If we reclaim the 117, 119k zone on 4-hour, 6-hour basis, then we could look for the further push into the 124s, 125s. That's how I'm playing BTC on like a swing basis. If we come over here to the lower time frame, I've got it up on the 30-minute. You can see is I did have some nice weekend trades. You would have seen them over on my Instagram. What I'll be looking for is pretty much the same thing. It's the same chart that's plotted out. We could see a sweep below these lows at 109k. We reclaim these lows, and we can look to take longs up to 116k. Alternatively, these equal highs that we have up here, if we're going to push to the upside first, we have some type of deviation or swing failure of these highs, we could look to play the breakdown on the momentum as we break below the local low. And we can look to play that down into these weekend lows of 109k. So Bitcoin is actually very simple in terms of like your intraday and your swing theses. I think we're going to be remaining range bound within these zones, taking out the sellers, taking out the buyers, kind of readjusting the books, also building up a new set of liquidity because so much liquidity was drained from the market last week. With that said, for these type of conditions, I'd say your intraday and your scalp traders, it should be your like your playground. Okay, I've had a lot more success playing these like intraday moves, especially these ones that you saw on the weekend. I didn't get to catch the Monday move, unfortunately. I was waiting for the sweep of the high, which is a shame. But I think that the edge is going to be in like shorter term moves. Okay, you should not be looking for these massive recoveries or these massive collapses. While they may occur, you know, I'm not saying they're completely out of the picture. That's not where the edge is going to lie. There's so much volatility on an intraday basis. You're going to be able to make money on if you catch any of the moves. Okay, top to bottom, these moves are going very are moving very violent, very quickly. Large number of pips. The books are thin right now, so the price is just skyrocketing and then dropping. It's going in both directions just so fast. That's where your edge is going to lie. So you either want to look for a sweep of these lows, reclaim, or a sweep of these highs, breakdown. Okay, that's what I'm searching for on BTC, and I'll align that with my 6-hour and my daily thesis or my daily charts, making sure that the closures make sense, etc., etc. With that said, in this current market, when it comes to like longs and stuff, I've been looking at Zcash, just taking like intraday buys on it because of the relative strength we've been seeing in the market. So Zcash has obviously been having like a massive move since mid-September. Also recovered really well from the Friday's liquidation cascade. So longs on Zcash are technically preferred. That's what I had executed yesterday in terms of the setup. Very simple stuff. We have Monday's low right here. Tuesday Asia and Tuesday London, all the way through to New York. In fact, we deviated these lows. We were taking out taking out buyers. We were accumulating sellers. Once liquidity was swept, Bitcoin showed a bit of strength. We pushed violently into the upside. We left this fair value gap, this imbalance of price. Price moved down. It retested the Monday low in confluence with our imbalance, and this started the push to the upside. Once we had a bit of momentum, I entered buys at $238-ish and pushed to the upside. Now that we've swept out these highs at 263, I've taken considerable partials on my position just because of the uncertainty in the market, leaving runners to run, looking for a push into the 297s and potentially above into the 330 region. In terms of how to move forward on Zcash, I'd say just leave it for the time being. I'm just kind of showing this setup to give you guys an idea of how I'm navigating this market in the current climate more than anything. Taking longs on strength. I'm not trying to buy something that's dumped super hard. I'm trying to catch momentum on what is showing relative strength to these uncertain conditions, Zcash being one of them. In terms of the reasons why, I mean, it's a privacy token and the world is nearing collapse, so it's pretty simple thesis as to why we're seeing like a rotation into this coin, into this token, into this market. I'm not saying this is like the new meta and that all these privacy tokens are going to run but it's something that you should definitely be considering, you know, as regulation ramps up. That's kind of my thesis here. As regulation ramps up, we're seeing a transition or a rotation out of these majors into something like Zcash, just because of government overreach and the regulatory climate that's coming for us soon. Those of you who know how that should be playing out in the next 2 to 3 years. I won't comment much further on it. But yeah, buying into strength is what is making sense here. Zcash is showing strength, so I'm just looking for long setups on here. TP and partials, let them run as run. This is how I like to trade these altcoins. You know, bank what I've already made once it's there, and then if it's going to make this ridiculous 50, 100% move, then we'll have runners on the table for us to capture it. I'm not suggesting that you long Zcash right now, if I'm honest. I mean, it's not in a great position. In terms of how you might want to long Zcash, I think that you're actually better off waiting for the potential weekend sweep on Bitcoin that I just mentioned, and you'll see that we have this region at like $200, which has this gap directly beneath these lows that we formed on Saturday. So if we do have like Bitcoin sweeping into those weekend lows, you could see Zcash moving into this $200 level. We have some type of reclaim of the 207, then you can look to take buys for us to push back up to the aforementioned targets, 297, 330s. That would be like the next trade that I look to take on Zcash for the time being. Price is going to mature over the next set of days, things can change, setups can develop, but I certainly wouldn't suggest that you're longing up here at these highs, okay, at these local highs. That is Zcash, that's just a trade that I've been taking, something I've been looking at, something that, as I say, I just want to demonstrate like how I navigate these type of choppy scenarios. I'm buying into strength. That's what I really want to get across. Buying into strength, adding to winners, cutting off the losers. But yeah, that is Zcash right now. Got nothing in the chat comments, so I guess we can just move on to the next.